Hey everyone, buckle up because tonight we're diving into the wild world of politics. Don't worry, we'll keep the yelling to a minimum. Now, you might be thinking, John, aren't there enough political rants on the internet already? And you'd be right. But tonight isn't about ranting. No, tonight is about busting myths and celebrating success stories in the most unlikely of places, left-wing countries. Yes, you heard that right. Those places your grumpy uncle calls socialist nightmares. We're about to reveal the truth. So grab your thinking caps and maybe a stiff drink, because we're about to embark on a journey to the land of free healthcare, affordable education, and shockingly high levels of happiness. Who knows, you might even be tempted to pack your bags and move by the end of this. Section 2. The usual suspects debunking myths about leftist paradises. Now before we introduce you to the rock stars of the left-wing world, we need to address the misconceptions. You know the ones. Socialism equals poverty. Free healthcare means long wait times and subpar care. High taxes kill innovation. But guess what? These are just stories. Myths designed to scare you away from even considering an alternative to the status quo. Because a society can prioritize the well-being of its citizens without turning into a dystopian hellscape. So prepare to have your preconceived notions challenged and your worldview potentially flipped on its head. Get ready for a reality check, folks, because the truth about left-wing policies might just surprise you. Section 1. Nordic Nirvana. Unveiling the secrets of Scandinavia's success. Let's kick off our world tour of left-wing wonderlands with a trip to Scandinavia. These tiny countries are consistently ranked at the top in global surveys for happiness, healthcare, education, and overall quality of life. So what's their secret sauce? It's a recipe that includes strong social safety nets, universal healthcare, free education, and a commitment to work-life balance. But here's the kicker. They also have thriving economies with high levels of innovation and entrepreneurship. It seems like taking care of your citizens doesn't actually destroy capitalism. In fact, it might just make it work better for everyone. Land of the long white cloud and even longer lifespans, New Zealand's winning formula. Next stop, New Zealand. They have universal healthcare, affordable education, and a strong social safety net that ensures everyone has a fair shot at a good life. New Zealand is also a leader in environmental conservation, LGBTQ+ rights, and indigenous reconciliation. So what's their secret? They've figured out that a happy and healthy population is also a productive and innovative one. Investing in things like education, healthcare, and the environment is actually a smart economic move in the long run. Who would have thought? Section 3. Beyond the Higa digging, deeper into the Nordic model. Let's delve a little deeper into this whole Nordic model thing. It's a set of shared values and policies that prioritize social equality, economic security, and a strong role for government in providing for the needs of its citizens. We're talking free healthcare, free education, generous parental leave, strong unions, and a robust social safety net. But before you start packing your bags for Copenhagen, it's important to note that the Nordic model isn't without its critics. Some argue that the high taxes needed to fund these programs stifle innovation and discourage risk-taking. Even the most successful models have their limitations. Nobody's perfect, not even those ridiculously happy Scandinavians. Section 1. Show me the money and how they share it. Income equality in action. Time to talk about money. Or, more specifically, how these left-leaning countries manage to spread the wealth. High taxes in these countries don't equal economic ruin. In fact, they seem to be doing just fine. There's a strong correlation between income equality and overall well-being. Countries like Norway, Sweden, and Denmark consistently rank among the lowest in income inequality worldwide. They achieve this through progressive taxation, robust social safety nets, and strong labor unions. It's almost like they've figured out that a rising tide lifts all boats, not just the yachts of the super rich. Section 2. Economic indicators, crushing capitalism at its own game. How do these countries actually perform economically? Well, hold on to your hats, folks. Despite their high taxes and generous social programs, these left-wing powerhouses boast strong economies, low unemployment rates, and high levels of productivity. For example, Norway has a higher GDP per capita than the United States, while Denmark consistently ranks among the world's most competitive economies. Investing in your citizens' education, health, and well-being actually pays off in the long run. Those high taxes, they fund things like infrastructure, research and development, and social programs. It's almost like they've cracked the code to sustainable, equitable economic growth. Beyond the bottom line, Measuring what really matters, GDP and unemployment rates don't tell the whole story. What good is a strong economy if people are miserable, stressed, and overworked? That's where those other, less tangible indicators come in. These left-wing wonderlands excel in happiness, life expectancy, work-life balance, and environmental sustainability. They consistently rank at the top of global surveys for happiness, well-being, and overall quality of life. They found a way to create societies that are both prosperous and equitable, innovative and compassionate. Taking care of your citizens isn't just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. Section 1. Education, education, education. From cradle to career, it's all free. Time to talk education. But not the kind that makes you want to eat glue and stare longingly out the window. We're talking about the kind of education system that makes you excited to learn, explore, and reach your full potential. In many of these left-wing utopias, education is considered a fundamental right, not a privilege reserved for the wealthy or the lucky. From kindergarten to university, students have access to high-quality education without having to worry about crippling student debt. Imagine a world where your biggest concern in college is what to order for lunch, not how you're going to pay your tuition bill. By providing everyone with an equal opportunity to learn and grow, these countries are creating a more skilled, adaptable, and innovative workforce. Healthcare for all, a prescription for a healthier, happier society. Let's talk about healthcare. Specifically, the kind that doesn't involve declaring bankruptcy or choosing between paying rent and filling a prescription. In these left-leaning wonderlands, universal healthcare isn't a radical idea, it's just the way things are. Everyone, regardless of income or employment status, has access to affordable, quality healthcare. Many of these countries consistently rank higher than the United States in terms of overall health outcomes and patient satisfaction. Imagine a world where you can go to the doctor when you're sick without worrying about the bill. A healthier population is a more productive population, and a less stressed population is a happier population. The Happiness Index. Because who needs a BMW when you can bike to work? Now I know what you're thinking. John, all this talk about free education and healthcare sounds great, but what about happiness? These left-leaning countries consistently rank at the top of global happiness surveys. Is it the free healthcare, the affordable education, the shorter work weeks, the abundance of hygge? It's probably a combination of all of those things. These countries have figured out that there's more to life than just working yourself to death to afford things you don't have time to enjoy. They've embraced a more holistic approach to well-being, one that values time with loved ones, connection to nature, and a sense of purpose beyond the daily grind. Safety and security. Feeling the love and the low crime rates. Time to tackle a biggie: safety. Many of these left-leaning havens boast some of the lowest crime rates in the world. We're talking about places like Iceland, where you can leave your front door unlocked, and Japan, where losing your wallet is more of an inconvenience than a catastrophe. It's about creating a society where everyone feels safe, supported, and valued. A society where poverty and inequality are minimized, and everyone has access to the resources they need to thrive. A happy, healthy, and secure population is also a safe population. Silicon Vikings and startup saunas. Innovation thrives in the North. Time to shatter another myth, that high taxes and social programs stifle innovation. These countries aren't just churning out happy, healthy citizens, they're also churning out cutting-edge technology and groundbreaking ideas. Places like Finland, the birthplace of Nokia, and Sweden, home to Spotify and Skype. They invest heavily in research and development, both public and private. They have world-class universities and a culture that encourages creativity and risk-taking. Those high taxes fund a strong social safety net that allows entrepreneurs to take risks without fearing financial ruin. E-stonia, we hardly knew ya, a tiny nation's digital revolution. Now let's hop on over to Estonia, a tiny Baltic nation that's making a big splash in the tech world. You might be thinking, Estonia, where's that? And that's okay, because, until recently, they were mostly known for, well, being next to Russia. But hold on to your hats, folks, because this little country is leading the charge in digital innovation. We're talking about a place where you can vote online, pay your taxes in minutes, and start a business with just a few clicks. They even have digital residency. So how did they do it? Well, after gaining independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, they decided to go all in on technology, building a digital infrastructure from the ground up. They invested heavily in education, making computer programming a mandatory subject in schools. and they created a business-friendly environment that's attracting entrepreneurs and investors from all over the world. It's like the Silicon Valley of the Baltics, but with better healthcare and less traffic. Investing in the future, where robots serve you. Coffee and nobody fears the robot uprising, yet. Now, let's talk about the future. Specifically the future of work in a world increasingly dominated by automation and artificial intelligence. It's a topic that's causing a lot of anxiety these days, and for good reason. But guess what? Our left-leaning friends aren't panicking. In fact, they're embracing these technological advancements and figuring out ways to make them work for everyone, not just the robot overlords. Take Finland, for example. They're experimenting with a universal basic income, a guaranteed minimum income for all citizens, regardless of whether they have a job or not. The idea is that as automation disrupts traditional employment models, a basic income would provide a safety net for those who lose their jobs and allow them to pursue new opportunities. It's a radical idea, no doubt, but one that's gaining traction as the future of work becomes increasingly uncertain. Green tech, green jobs, green everything, saving the planet with leftist policies. Climate change is real, and it's not just polar bears who should be worried. Left-leaning policies are combating it, creating jobs, and boosting economies. Denmark gets over 40% of its electricity from wind power. Iceland is transitioning to 100% renewable energy. They put a price on carbon and invest in renewable energy. Incentives help reduce carbon footprints. Saving the planet and growing the economy aren't mutually exclusive. Alright folks, buckle up because we're about to enter the exciting and slightly terrifying world of artificial intelligence. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, isn't this where the robots take over and enslave humanity? And to that I say, relax. We've seen Terminator, we know how to handle a rogue AI. Plus our lefty friends have a plan, and it's not about building killer robots. They're focused on something far more radical, using AI for good. That's right, they're harnessing the power of algorithms to improve healthcare, education, and even the environment. They're investing in research and development, but not the kind that creates Skynet. Think AI-powered medical diagnoses that are faster and more accurate, personalized education programs that adapt to each student's needs, and smart grids that optimize energy consumption and reduce waste. They're even using AI to tackle climate change, developing models to predict extreme weather events and optimize renewable energy production. It's like having a super smart sidekick, but instead of fighting crime, it's fighting inequality and saving the planet. The ethics of AI, because even robots need rules and maybe a nap time. Now before you start planning your retirement to a world run by benevolent AI overlords, let's address the elephant in the algorithm ethics. Because even the smartest AI is only as good as the data it's trained on and the humans who program it. And let's be honest, we humans have a bit of a track record when it comes to bias, discrimination, and generally messing things up. That's why our left-leaning friends are taking a cautious approach to AI development, focusing on transparency, accountability, and fairness. They're implementing regulations to prevent AI from being used for malicious purposes, such as surveillance, discrimination, or the creation of autonomous weapons systems. Because seriously, haven't we learned anything from the movies? They're also investing in education and public awareness campaigns to ensure that everyone understands the potential benefits and risks of AI. Because let's be honest, the last thing we need is a bunch of robots running around making decisions based on biased data and outdated algorithms. That's a recipe for disaster, not progress. Section 3. The future is now, and it's surprisingly Scandinavian. So, what does the future hold for these trailblazers? It's looking bright. Leading in renewable energy and social innovation, embracing tech with ethics, ensuring everyone benefits, not just the privileged few, proving a just, equitable, and sustainable world is possible, through pragmatic policies. It's a breath of fresh air. Point to these shining examples. The future is now, and it's surprisingly Scandinavian. The verdict turns out, sharing is caring, and good for the economy. Well folks, there you have it. We've journeyed from Norway to New Zealand, peeking behind those radical left-wing policies, and what did we find? The boogeyman is just a dude in a comfy sweater enjoying free healthcare and affordable craft beer. Investing in people, education, and a safety net doesn't lead to economic collapse. These countries excel in happiness, technology, and economic indicators. When you take care of citizens, they're healthier, more productive, and less likely to join a mob. So next time someone says taxing the rich leads to socialist purgatory, remind them there's more than one way to build a successful society. A society that values fairness, compassion, and well-being for all, not just the top. Join the revolution, but like the peaceful Scandinavian kind. Now before you grab your pitchforks and start demanding free healthcare in the streets, though let's be honest, that wouldn't be the worst idea. Remember, this isn't about copying and pasting another country's system. It's about learning from their successes, adapting their ideas to our own unique contexts, and having honest conversations about what kind of future we want to build. Do we want a world where everyone has access to quality education and healthcare regardless of their income or zip code? A world where we invest in renewable energy, protect our environment, and create a more just and equitable society for generations to come? Well, guess what? Those aren't just pipe dreams. They're realities in many parts of the world, and they're within our reach if we're willing to fight for them. So, let's get to work, folks. Talk to your friends, family, and even that grumpy uncle who's convinced socialism is a dirty word. Share this video, hint hint, and let's start a conversation about how we can create a world that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. Because a better future is possible, but it's up to us to make it happen. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be the ones inspiring the rest of the world with our own brand of left-leaning awesomeness. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay hopeful. The future is counting on us. Right, hello everyone and welcome. Tonight we're diving headfirst into the wonderful world of, wait for it, right-wing countries. Now, before you click away faster than a politician fleeing a scandal, hear me out. We're not here to debate the merits of left versus right. Think of this more like a deeply sarcastic travelogue. We're going on a world tour, folks, to visit some nations often held up as shining examples of right-wing governance. We're talking economic indicators, education, healthcare, the whole shebang. And because no right-wing highlight reel is complete without it, we'll also be gazing upon the gleaming chrome of their technological advancements. Buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Ah, the United States. A nation built on the unshakable belief that if you just work hard enough, you too can achieve the American dream. Just ignore the fact that the dream now requires scaling a mountain of student loan debt while dodging crippling healthcare costs. But hey, let's focus on the positives, shall we? The US boasts a powerful economy. It's the land of Amazon Prime, after all, where two-day shipping reigns supreme and next-day delivery induces a near-religious experience. Now look at that GDP growth. It's like watching a toddler hyped up on sugar, erratically bouncing off the walls of an inflatable castle. Impressive? Sure. Sustainable? Debatable. And as for that whole land of opportunity thing, well, let's just say the gap between the haves and the have-nots is wider than a canyon, and it's about as easy to cross. Let's talk healthcare, baby. Specifically, the unique brand of healthcare found in the United States, where a trip to the emergency room can leave you financially ruined. It's like playing a game of medical roulette, except the only prize is a lifetime of debt. Imagine, if you will, a system where a broken leg could cost you the equivalent of a small car. And good luck figuring out your bill, which will be longer than War and Peace and about as easy to understand. But hey, at least Americans have the freedom to choose their healthcare providers. Of course, that freedom is somewhat limited when you're too busy choosing between rent and insulin to actually afford seeing a doctor. It's enough to make you wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's a better way. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now you might be thinking, John, with all this talk of economic disparity and terrifying healthcare, surely the American people must be utterly miserable. And to that I say, hold my beer. Because despite the odds, Americans are a resilient bunch. They'll happily grill hot dogs on their balconies to celebrate their independence, even as the metaphorical house burns down around them. They find solace in their exceptionalism, clinging to the belief that they live in the greatest country on earth despite all evidence to the contrary. It's a beautiful, delusional kind of optimism. But hey, who are we to judge? After all, we're just here to observe, analyze, and maybe, just maybe, learn a thing or two. Or, have a good laugh at the absurdity of it all. Either way, stay tuned. Next, on our whirlwind tour of right-wing havens, we find ourselves in the picturesque and enigmatic country of Switzerland. This is the land of breathtaking mountains, delicious chocolate, and of course, a healthy dose of neutrality that has defined its global image for centuries. Now, Switzerland might seem like an odd choice for this list of right-wing havens. After all, they're famous for their neutrality, their cheese, and their uncanny ability to make clocks that tell time in ways that almost defy the laws of physics. But beneath that serene alpine veneer lies a country with a fiercely capitalist economy and a deep-seated suspicion of government intervention. It's a place where free market principles thrive. Think of it as the quiet kid in class who aces all the tests while secretly running a multi-level marketing scheme on the side. Switzerland excels in education, innovation, and business. So, grab your finest fondue forks and let's delve into the world of Swiss success, shall we? From their culinary delights to their economic prowess, there's much to explore. Just try not to get too distracted by the mesmerizing ticking of those cuckoo clocks. They are a testament to Swiss precision and craftsmanship, after all. Let's talk education, shall we? Because in Switzerland, it's not just about learning your ABCs and how to yodel on key. Oh no, my friends, this is Switzerland we're talking about. They're playing 4D chess while the rest of us are struggling with Connect 4. Switzerland boasts an education system that's the envy of the world. It's like a perfectly oiled machine churning out highly skilled workers ready to conquer the global marketplace. And the best part? They manage to do it all without bankrupting their students. That's right, no crippling student loan debt here. Just a well-educated workforce ready to take on the world. Of course, some might argue that the Swiss education system is a bit too focused on churning out efficient little worker bees. But hey, at least they're well-paid worker bees, right? Now you can't talk about Switzerland without mentioning its healthcare system. It's like a finely tuned watch, except instead of gears and springs, it's powered by a complex web of mandatory insurance and private providers. And yes, you heard that right, mandatory. In Switzerland, you are legally required to have health insurance. Think of it like mandatory military service, but instead of learning how to fire a rifle, you're learning how to navigate the labyrinthine world of Swiss healthcare. But hey, at least you're guaranteed coverage, right? Of course, that coverage comes at a price. Literally. Swiss healthcare is notoriously expensive, even with mandatory insurance. So, while you might be able to afford to see a doctor when you're sick, you might have to sell a kidney to pay for the privilege. It's all about balance, right? And now, we arrive at Singapore, a place so small you could mistake it for a particularly ambitious shopping mall on a map. But don't let its diminutive size fool you, because this island nation is a technological powerhouse. Singapore is like the overachieving kid in class who aces every test, builds a working volcano for the science fair, and still finds time to teach themselves Mandarin. And honestly, who needs actual size when you're busy becoming a global hub for innovation? It's like your mother always said, it's not the size that matters, it's what you do with it. Just kidding, your mom probably didn't say that about Singapore. Or did she? Singaporeans seem to have a somewhat complicated relationship with robots, which, to be fair, is the most relatable thing about them. On one hand, they're developing cutting-edge robotics for everything from manufacturing to elder care. On the other hand, they haven't quite figured out if they want a robot uprising or not. I mean, who can blame them? It's a tough one. On the one hand, robot overlords could finally solve their chewing gum ban enforcement issue with ruthless efficiency. But on the other hand, would you really want to live in a world where a robot can tell you off for spitting out your gum? It's a slippery slope, people. A very clean, well-organized, and efficiently run slippery slope, but a slippery slope nonetheless. But in all seriousness, Singapore's commitment to technological advancement is nothing short of impressive. They're investing heavily in artificial intelligence, with the goal of becoming a world leader in AI governance and development. And honestly, if any country is prepared for the robot uprising, it's probably Singapore. Imagine a robot army, marching down the street, only to be stopped dead in their tracks by a sternly worded sign that reads, "No littering, by order of the robot overlords." It's enough to make even the most dystopian future seem strangely pleasant. Alright, strap in folks, because we're heading east to the land of the rising sun, Japan. This is a country that seamlessly blends ancient traditions with cutting-edge technology, creating a unique and fascinating culture. Now, when you think of Japan, you might think of sushi, samurai, or that terrifying Hello Kitty mascot that haunts my dreams, but there's so much more to this incredible nation than just these iconic images. But what you should also be thinking about is their economy. Japan's economic landscape is a marvel of modern efficiency and innovation. Japan is an economic powerhouse, consistently ranking among the top 3 economies globally. Their GDP growth and stock market performance are testaments to their robust financial systems. They're like the reliable friend with a solid 401k and a well-stocked emergency fund. Their financial prudence and strategic investments have made them a model for economic stability. And let's not forget their technological prowess. Japan is at the forefront of robotics and automation, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. I mean, this is a country where vending machines dispense everything from hot ramen to used underwear. These machines are a testament to Japan's ingenuity and willingness to innovate in even the most unexpected areas. And I'm not even joking about the underwear. It's a cultural quirk, sure, but it also speaks to their incredible automation and innovation. These vending machines are just one example of how Japan integrates technology into everyday life. It's a cultural quirk, sure, but it also speaks to their incredible automation and innovation. From automated factories to advanced robotics, Japan is a leader in technological advancements. Japan's commitment to technology is woven into the fabric of their society, from their bullet trains to their robot-staffed hotels. This dedication to progress and efficiency is what makes Japan a true wonder of the modern world. Now let's talk about their education system. Japan consistently ranks highly in global education rankings, with a strong emphasis on discipline, respect, and achieving academic excellence. Think of it like this: if the US education system is a free-for-all laser tag match, Japan is a perfectly choreographed ballet recital. Both have their merits, but only one involves coordinated outfits and significantly less screaming. But it's not all sunshine and high-speed rail. Japan also grapples with a shrinking population and a rigid work culture. It's a country where working yourself to death is not just a metaphor, it's a legitimate societal concern. So, while they might have a robot for everything, they haven't quite cracked the code on work-life balance. Maybe someone should invent a robot for that. Despite these challenges, Japan remains a global leader in innovation and technology. They're at the forefront of robotics, artificial intelligence, and those weird toilets that wash your bum with lasers. And let's not forget their cultural influence. From anime to manga to J-pop, Japan has a knack for exporting its unique brand of cool to the rest of the world. So, while their societal model might not be for everyone, there's no denying Japan's impact on the world stage. They're a country of contrasts, ancient traditions intertwined with futuristic technology, a workaholic culture grappling with existential anxieties. But one thing's for sure, Japan will continue to be a fascinating case study in economic success, technological innovation, and the eternal human struggle for meaning in a rapidly changing world. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to dive headfirst into the world of K-pop, kimchi, and some seriously impressive economic growth. That's right, we're talking about South Korea. Now, South Korea's story is nothing short of remarkable. Just a few decades ago, they were a war-torn nation, struggling to rebuild after a devastating conflict. But fast forward to today, and they've transformed themselves into a global economic powerhouse. It's like that friend who went through a messy breakup, did a complete 180, and emerged looking like $1 million. You know, the one you secretly envy but also kind of want to high-five? That's South Korea. From tech giants like Samsung and LG to the global phenomenon that is K-pop, South Korea has cemented its place on the world stage. So how did they do it? How did South Korea become a powerhouse of education and economic success? Well, for starters, they take education very seriously. Like, really seriously. From a young age, students are taught the importance of academic achievement. South Korea boasts one of the most rigorous education systems in the world, with students often attending school for long hours, and then heading to private tutoring sessions. There's a heavy emphasis on STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, areas that are seen as crucial for future success. And with this focus comes a whole lot of pressure to succeed. Students are constantly pushed to excel, often at the expense of their well-being. Think of it as a pressure cooker for academic excellence, where the heat is always on and there's little room for error. This intense environment is fueled by a potent blend of parental expectations, societal pressure, and a culture that equates success with academic achievement. And let's not forget the caffeine, enough to keep a small nation awake for a week. Students often rely on coffee and energy drinks to keep up with their demanding schedules. And speaking of pressure, let's talk about work-life balance, or rather, the lack thereof. The hustle doesn't stop at graduation. South Koreans work some of the longest hours in the developed world, often sacrificing personal time for professional commitments. It's not uncommon to see people working late into the night, sometimes even pulling all-nighters to meet deadlines. Many employees put in 6-day weeks, driven by a culture that values hard work and dedication above all else. While this dedication often leads to professional success and recognition, it also comes at a significant cost. Burnout is a real concern, with many workers feeling the strain of their relentless schedules. The mental and physical toll can be overwhelming, leading to a growing awareness of the need for better work-life balance. Many young South Koreans are starting to question the relentless pursuit of economic success, advocating for a more balanced and fulfilling life. But despite these challenges, there's no denying South Korea's remarkable achievements. They've gone from economic devastation to technological dominance in the blink of an eye, all while exporting their vibrant culture to the world. From their lightning-fast internet speeds, seriously, trying to stream Netflix in the US after experiencing Korean internet is like trying to download a file using 2 tin cans and a string. And then there's their dedication to innovation, with companies like Samsung and LG constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. South Korea is a country that embraces the future, and frankly, the future looks pretty damn bright. Well, there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of some of the top right-wing countries making waves on the global stage. From the economic powerhouses of Japan and South Korea, to the technological innovations of Singapore, it's clear that these countries are doing something right. Are they perfect? Of course not. No country is. But they offer valuable lessons in economic growth, technological advancement, and the power of a good work ethic. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this look at some of the top right-wing countries making a positive impact globally. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe for more insightful and entertaining content. Hey everyone, buckle up. We're diving into the thrilling world of economics, where the stakes are high, the jargon is baffling, and the jokes are, well, let's just say I'm trying my best. Today's main event: left-wing versus right-wing economics, dawn of the fiscal freaks. It's like Alien versus Predator, but instead of slimy aliens and dreadlocked hunters, we have tax cuts and social programs. Now, before you click away faster than a politician dodges a tough question, I promise to make this as painless and maybe even slightly enjoyable as possible. We'll be your guide through this confusing landscape using real-world examples, mind-blowing statistics, okay, maybe just regular statistics, and enough humor to keep you awake. Because let's face it, economics can be drier than a popcorn fart in a sandstorm. This isn't just about boring numbers and graphs, though. It's about understanding the different approaches governments take to manage their economies and how those choices impact people like you and me. So grab your thinking caps, or your favorite comfy blanket, and get ready to explore the wild world of left-wing and right-wing economics. Let's start with the lefties, shall we? No, not the ones who can't throw a baseball straight. We're talking about left-wing economics. Imagine a world where the government ensures everyone gets a fair shot. Left-wing economics uses government power to promote equality and social welfare. Think universal healthcare, free education, and strong social safety nets. By taxing the wealthy and redistributing wealth, we can create a fairer society. It's about a basic standard of living for everyone. Now, let's hop over to the other side of the ring, where the right-wingers hang out. Picture a world where the government is like a hands-off referee, letting individuals and businesses duke it out in the free market. That's the gist of right-wing economics. Right-wing economics, often associated with capitalism or free market economics, emphasizes individual freedom, limited government intervention, and the power of the market to allocate resources efficiently. In this system, businesses are encouraged to thrive, competition is king, and success is seen as a reward for hard work and innovation. Think of it like a giant game of Monopoly, where the person with the most money and property wins. It's a bit ruthless, sure, but supporters argue that this cutthroat competition ultimately leads to innovation, economic growth, and a better life for everyone. They believe that lower taxes, deregulation, and free trade will unleash the entrepreneurial spirit and create a more prosperous society. Of course, critics argue that this system can lead to inequality, as those who start with more advantages are likely to do better, while others might get left behind. Let's take a trip to the 1980s, a time of big hair, shoulder pads, and Ronald Reagan. Reagan ushered in an era of right-wing economic policies. His trickle-down economics aimed to cut taxes for the wealthy to stimulate growth. The idea was that these tax breaks would create jobs and benefit everyone. The reality, however, is more complicated. Economic expansion came with increased income inequality. The gap between the rich and the poor widened. Fast forward a couple of decades and we find ourselves in the midst of the 2008 financial crisis, a global economic meltdown that nearly brought the entire system crashing down. Remember those images of panicked bankers, plummeting stock prices, and people losing their homes? Yeah, good times. Now, while the causes of the crisis are complex, one contributing factor was deregulation, a key tenet of right-wing economics. For years, the financial industry had enjoyed looser regulations, allowing them to engage in riskier behavior, like subprime mortgages and complex financial instruments that even they didn't fully understand. Think of it like letting a bunch of teenagers loose in a candy store with unlimited credit cards. Sure, they might have a blast in the short term, but eventually someone's going to end up with a stomachache and the whole place might just explode with sugar. The 2008 crisis showed that while deregulation can lead to innovation and economic growth, it can also create an environment where reckless behavior goes unchecked, ultimately putting the entire system at risk. One of the most enduring debates in economics is the relationship between tax cuts and economic growth. Right-wing economists argue that lower taxes, especially for businesses and high earners, act like a shot of adrenaline to the economy, boosting investment, job creation, and overall prosperity. It's like taking the governor off a race car, they say. Less government interference means more speed and economic dynamism. They point to historical examples like the Reagan tax cuts as evidence that this approach works. Left-wing economists, however, view this argument with a healthy dose of skepticism. They contend that while tax cuts might provide a short-term sugar rush to the economy, they often lead to higher deficits, reduced government revenue, and cuts to essential social programs in the long run. They argue that investing in education, infrastructure, and social safety nets is a much more sustainable way to promote long-term economic growth and benefit a wider segment of the population. It's like investing in a good pair of running shoes, they say. It might cost more upfront, but it will pay off in the long run with better performance and fewer injuries. Now here's the thing about economic policies. They don't exist in a vacuum. They have real-world consequences impacting people's lives in profound ways. One of the most significant impacts of right-wing economic policies, particularly those focused on tax cuts and deregulation, has been the widening gap between the rich and the poor. While proponents argue that these policies benefit everyone by creating a more prosperous society overall, critics point out that the gains are often concentrated at the top, while those at the bottom struggle to keep up. Imagine a game of Monopoly where one player starts with all the properties and hotels, while the others are stuck with Baltic and Mediterranean avenues. Sure, the game might technically be fair, but it's pretty clear who's going to come out on top. This growing inequality has far-reaching consequences, not just for individuals but for society as a whole. It can lead to social unrest, political instability, and a decline in overall well-being. So, while right-wing economic policies might sound good in theory, it's crucial to consider their impact on all members of society, not just those at the top of the economic food chain. Alright folks, let's hop across the pond to Scandinavia, a region often held up as a shining example of left-wing economics in action. Think cozy sweaters, minimalist furniture, and a government that's more involved in your life than your mother-in-law after 3 glasses of wine. Now before you pack your bags and brush up on your Swedish, remember that even utopia has its quirks. The Scandinavian model, often described as social democracy, is based on a mix of free market capitalism and robust social welfare programs. They've got universal healthcare, free education from preschool to university, generous parental leave policies, and a strong safety net for the unemployed. It's like a giant comfy blanket for their citizens, paid for with some of the highest taxes in the world. So, is this socialist paradise all it's cracked up to be? Well, it depends who you ask. Scandinavians enjoy a high standard of living, low crime rates, and a strong sense of social cohesion. But critics argue that their high taxes stifle innovation and entrepreneurship. Plus, let's be real, those long dark winters can't be good for anyone's mood, even with free healthcare. Universal healthcare, a topic that gets people more riled up than a squirrel in a peanut factory. It's a cornerstone of many left-wing economic systems, the idea that everyone deserves access to quality healthcare, regardless of their ability to pay. Proponents argue that it's a moral imperative, ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy life. They point to countries like Canada and most of Europe, where universal healthcare is the norm, and people don't go bankrupt from medical bills. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, hold your horses. Critics argue that government-run healthcare is inefficient, plagued by long wait times and limited choices. They fear that it would lead to rationing of care, with government bureaucrats deciding who gets what treatment. They also worry about the cost, arguing that it would lead to sky-high taxes and bankrupt the country. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, kind of like trying to assemble IKEA furniture after a bottle of wine. Next up, let's talk about the minimum wage, that magical number that determines how much money you get paid for flipping burgers, folding clothes, or any other entry-level job that keeps the economy humming along. Left-leaning folks argue that a higher minimum wage is essential for lifting people out of poverty and reducing income inequality. They say that no one who works full-time should have to live below the poverty line, struggling to afford basic necessities. They argue that a higher minimum wage boosts the economy by putting more money in the pockets of low-wage workers, who then spend it in their communities. It's a win-win, right? Well, not so fast, say the critics. They warn that raising the minimum wage too high will force businesses to raise prices, leading to inflation that hurts everyone. They also worry that it will lead to job losses, as businesses automate tasks or reduce their workforce to offset the higher labor costs. It's a delicate balancing act, trying to find that sweet spot where workers earn a living wage without causing economic chaos. Section 4. Education, investing in the future or bankrupting the present. Last but not least, let's talk about education, the key to unlocking human potential, or at least that's what they tell us. Left-leaning folks believe that education should be a right, not a privilege, and they advocate for increased government funding for schools, particularly in disadvantaged communities. They argue that investing in education is investing in the future, creating a more skilled workforce and a fairer society. They point to countries like Finland with its highly regarded education system and emphasis on early childhood education as a model to emulate. However, critics argue that simply throwing money at the problem won't solve it. They point to bureaucratic inefficiencies, bloated administrations, and a lack of accountability in the education system. They also worry about the cost of free college tuition, arguing that it would saddle students with massive debt and wouldn't necessarily lead to better job prospects. It's a complex issue, kind of like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while riding a unicycle. Okay folks, it's time to break out the spreadsheets and calculators because things are about to get real. Numbery. We've explored the philosophies and policies of both left and right-wing economics. Now let's see how they stack up in the real world, using everyone's favorite thing, cold hard data. But before we dive into this statistical showdown, a word of caution. Economics is not an exact science. It's more like interpretive dance, open to interpretation, influenced by context, and prone to the occasional wardrobe malfunction. So while we'll be looking at indicators like GDP growth, income inequality, and social mobility, remember that these numbers only tell part of the story. They don't capture the human impact of these policies, the hopes and dreams, the struggles and triumphs of everyday people trying to make ends meet. But hey, at least it's not another cat video, right? Let's start with the big kahuna of economic indicators, gross domestic product, or GDP. It's the total value of goods and services produced in a country, kind of like the economic report card for nations around the world. Right-leaning folks tend to argue that their policies, focused on free markets and limited government intervention, lead to higher GDP growth. They point to the roaring economies of the 1980s under Reagan or the tech boom of the 1990s as evidence. Left-leaning folks, however, counter that GDP growth doesn't tell the whole story. They argue that it's possible to have a growing economy where the benefits are concentrated at the top, while the middle class shrinks and poverty persists. They prefer to look at indicators like median income growth, poverty rates, and social mobility to get a more complete picture of how the economy is impacting people's lives. It's like arguing over the best flavor of ice cream. Everyone has their preference, and there's no right or wrong answer, except for mint chocolate chip, which is objectively the best. Section 3. The happiness factor. Can money buy contentment? Now let's get philosophical for a moment, shall we? Is economic growth the be-all and end-all of a successful society? Or are there other factors like happiness, well-being, and social cohesion that are just as important? Some studies suggest that beyond a certain level of income, more money doesn't necessarily lead to more happiness. Scandinavian countries with their high taxes and generous social safety nets consistently rank among the happiest in the world, despite having lower GDP growth rates than some other developed nations. This suggests that factors like income equality, social support, and a sense of community might play a significant role in overall well-being. Of course, others argue that happiness is subjective and difficult to measure. They point out that economic freedom and the opportunity to pursue one's own goals are also essential for a fulfilling life. It's like trying to define the meaning of life. Everyone has their own interpretation, and good luck getting everyone to agree on one definition. Section 4. The Great Debate. Which side is right or left? So, after all this, where do we stand? Which economic system reigns supreme? Well, the answer, my friends, is, it's complicated. As much as we love a clear winner, the reality is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to the complexities of managing an economy. Both left and right-wing economics have their strengths and weaknesses, their successes and failures. It's about finding the right balance, the sweet spot between economic growth and social equity, between individual freedom and collective responsibility. It's about recognizing that the economy is not a zero-sum game, where one side's gain is inevitably the other side's loss. It's about creating a system that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. Easier said than done, right? It's like trying to herd cats, messy, unpredictable, and likely to end with you covered in scratches. But hey, if it were easy, everyone would be an economist, and then who would write the witty commentary? Section 5. Stay tuned, folks. And there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of left and right-wing economics. We've crunched the numbers, explored the philosophies, and hopefully injected a little humor along the way. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. There's so much more to explore, from the role of government regulation to the impact of globalization, from the challenges of climate change to the rise of automation. But we'll save those thrilling topics for another time. For now, let's take a break, grab a snack, and ponder the economic mysteries of the universe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Okay folks, take a deep breath and put down the pitchforks, metaphorically speaking of course. We've spent the last few sections painting left and right-wing economics as two opposing forces battling for economic supremacy. But let's be real, the world is rarely that black and white. It's more like a Jackson Pollock painting, messy, abstract, and open to interpretation. We love to put things into neat little boxes, don't we? Left versus right, liberal versus conservative, cats versus dogs. Spoiler alert, dogs are better. It makes the world seem simpler, easier to understand, but the truth is, most of us fall somewhere in the messy middle, a confusing kaleidoscope of beliefs and values, and economics is no different. The idea of pure, unadulterated capitalism or socialism is about as realistic as a unicorn riding a roller coaster while juggling chainsaws. Sure, it's fun to imagine, but it's not going to happen in the real world. Section 2, the mixed economy, a bit of this, a bit of that. So, if the extremes are a myth, what's the alternative? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to enter the thrilling world of the mixed economy. Don't worry, it's not as boring as it sounds. Think of it like your favorite cocktail, a carefully crafted blend of different ingredients that, when combined just right, create something truly special. Most modern economies are a mix of free market principles and government intervention. They embrace the power of the market to drive innovation and create wealth, but recognize the need for government to provide a safety net, regulate industries, and promote social welfare. It's like baking a cake, really. You need the right balance of ingredients, flour, sugar, eggs, a dash of economic theory to create something delicious. Too much flour, and you get a dry, crumbly mess. Too much government intervention, and you stifle innovation and economic growth. It's all about finding that sweet spot, the perfect recipe for a thriving society. The key to a successful mixed economy is pragmatism, not ideology. It's about being willing to adapt to changing circumstances, to experiment with different approaches, and to put aside partisan bickering in favor of solutions that work. It's like navigating a ship through stormy seas. You need a skilled captain who can adjust the sails, steer around obstacles, and keep the ship afloat, even when the waves are crashing down. Clinging rigidly to one ideology, whether it's the free market or government intervention, is like refusing to change course, even when you're headed straight for the rocks. It's time to move beyond the tired old debates of left versus right and embrace a more nuanced, pragmatic approach to economics. It's time to stop treating economic policy like a religion and start treating it like economics, a complex, ever-evolving field that requires careful analysis, critical thinking, and a healthy dose of humility. Section 4. The future of economics, challenges and opportunities. As we look to the future, the global economy faces a host of challenges, from climate change and resource scarcity to technological disruption and rising inequality. These challenges are complex, interconnected, and require innovative solutions that transcend traditional ideological divides. This is not a time for ideological purity or partisan gridlock. It's a time for collaboration, creativity, and a willingness to challenge outdated assumptions. It's a time to harness the power of both the market and the government to create a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future for all. So let's raise a glass of responsibly sourced fair trade coffee, of course, to the messy, exhilarating, and endlessly fascinating world of economics. It's a field full of contradictions, complexities, and the occasional bout of existential dread. But hey, at least it's never boring. Section 1. The Power of Perspective. It's your economy too. So there you have it, folks, a crash course in left versus right economics, served with a side of humor and a sprinkle of existential dread. We've explored the philosophies, crunched the numbers, sort of, and hopefully left you with more questions than answers. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Economics isn't just abstract. It's about real people's lives. It's about real people's lives. It's about whether that single mom working 2 jobs can afford to put food on the table and keep a roof over her head. It's about whether that college graduate drowning in student loan debt can ever afford to buy a house or start a family. It's about whether future generations will inherit a planet ravaged by climate change or a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. In other words, it's about you. Yes, you, the person watching this video in your pajamas, probably eating cereal at an unreasonable hour. You have a stake in this game whether you realize it or not. Your vote, your voice, your choices as a consumer, they all matter. Section 2. Stay curious, stay engaged, and don't forget to laugh. So, what have we learned today? Hopefully that economics doesn't have to be as dry and intimidating as a week-old bagel. It can be funny, engaging, and even a little bit mind-blowing. But more importantly, I hope you've learned that there's no one-size-fits-all answer to the economic challenges we face. The left versus right debate is a useful starting point, but it's just that, a starting point. The real work happens when we move beyond the tired old talking points and engage in thoughtful, nuanced conversations about how to create an economy that works for everyone. So, stay curious, folks. Read books, watch documentaries, especially this one, and engage in respectful debates with your friends and family. And most importantly, don't forget to laugh along the way. Because if we can't find a little humor in the absurdity of it all, then what's the point? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a sudden urge to go hug an economist. Don't worry, I'll wear gloves.